Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last minute of play in the third period. Johnny, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ticked off is Dana White today?
Maybe just like a degree other how ticked off TJ Dillashaw is today.
So, UFC number escapes me happened last night. I actually forget which number we're on now.
It wasn't a number, it was a fight night.
Was it? No!
Yeah, it was a fight night.
You gave away... No, there's no way they gave away a Cejudo and Dillashaw fight on a fight night.
Yeah, because it was their debut fight night card on ESPN as part of their new deal. That's why they put such a high-profile fight on it. I was surprised, too. I thought it was a pay-per-view.
Wow. I want to get Brock Lesnar's comments on that. He left the WWE. No word of a lie. Steve Austin left the WWE because they were going to give away him against Brock Lesnar for free on cable.
Oh, really?
On pay-per-view. I wonder how Lesnar feels about this super fight being on a fight night.
That's funny.
I swear to God, it gets louder every time I play it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Overtime on CHSR-979 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. Thank you for tuning into Overtime Radio. We love all of you, and that's why we are recording on Sunday morning, January 20th, so that you guys will have hot and fresh and tasty Overtime Radio content at 2 o'clock on Monday the 21st, when you are presumably waiting to be dug out of your house by a snowplow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we won't be able to cover any of the NFL playoff stuff until Friday's show as a result, but... hey, we're on an over a year streak of not missing an episode, so... Yeah,
we have not missed a single episode except for one technical failure that was entirely Sean's fault.
Oh, really? Which one was that?
It wasn't
quote unquote.
It wasn't actually entirely Sean's fault. There was one episode where for some reason one of the mic audio cut out mid thing.
Yeah, that was a lost episode.
Yeah, so the episode was in the thing, and Mark had to come in and replace it with something because he was listening, and Sean would talk, and then there would just be static.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what it was. Even Mark didn't even know.
And according to Sean, when he edited the episode, everything was fine.
Yeah, I listened to it through and through. It was perfect.
That's weird.
That's the only episode that we've had our NASCAR expert on.
Oh, Matt?
Yeah.
Expert.
That's funny.
I don't know. I think that's kind of fair.
I think it's close enough. He is to NASCAR what we are to hockey.
Well, I'd say we are a step up in that we are low-level actual hockey reporters, whereas Matt is just a fan. But I would not question Matt's knowledge of NASCAR in so much as I would respect everyone else not questioning our knowledge of hockey.
Exactly, right? So I guess he's close enough to expert as we're going to find here.
Anyway, we will talk about ESPN Fight Night 1 tonight. We're also going to talk a little bit about the tragedy of the University of Connecticut football team. We'll do some talk about AUS and ACAA, since this is, I think, the first bad week St. Thomas has had in almost a year and a half, not counting last year's playoffs. We'll talk a bunch of random NHL stuff. And I think Sean's got a bit on advanced stats in regards to William Nylander.
Yeah, and I also have some on Matt Duchene and Mark Stone if we wanted to go down that rabbit hole.
Awesome. Do you have the roundup?
I do.
Then I will throw it to you.
All right, thanks, Kaylee. So Tommy's women's basketball hit the courts this weekend when the Mount Allison Mounties visited the Lady Beaverbrook Gym, where the Tommies edged the Mounties 54-50. The men lost a barn burner in overtime when the Mounties took the match 90-88. The Holland Hurricanes also rolled into town, where the women's team took them on 76-56, while the men fell 109-80. The UMB Reds visited Nova Scotia when the men played Acadia and came out on top 79-64, followed by an 85-71 loss at the hands of the St. Mary's Huskies. The women fell 88-53 to the Axe women and found their way to an 83-76 win over the Huskies on Saturday. UMB women's hockey had the lone game this weekend when they visited PEI to take on the Panthers. They came out flying en route to a 2-0 shutout win. The men paid a visit to the Panthers as well Friday night when they crushed them 9-4. The Red Hot Tommies went back to work this weekend, dropping their Friday night game in Moncton 5-3, while they fell 2-1 in overtime to the St. Mary's Huskies. And that is your AUS ACAA Roundup.
I think of note, too, here is those losses are really bad for St. Thomas.
Yeah.
They really are.
6 games left in the season, and the gap between them and X is only 4. And I think they play St. FX one more time.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, and I think in St. FX. for what it's worth.
It's definitely kind of deflating considering like all the like space that they had built up over that winning streak, which they still have a good majority of.
Well, that's a funny thing. Maybe this is one of those things where we're looking at this with doom and gloom and we shouldn't, because we literally said on this show, well, this now means they can lose 2 games over the course of their back half. They can take 2 bad losses, and it doesn't matter.
So did we jinx the UNB or St. Thomas women's hockey team?
I don't think we jinxed them, but I think we correctly predicted that they were probably going to drop a couple games. They also started the first semester relatively slow. People have to remember that before the 12-game winning streak, they started the season like 2-2 or 3-2 before they finally got on their big run. So it's not that surprising that they've started the back half of the season like 1-2-1. The loss to Moncton's really bad, but I don't think anyone thinks that UNB is a bad team. Maybe overperforming to a degree, but not bad.
Yep. And as advanced stats have unveiled over the past couple years in the sport of hockey, like regression and progression is a thing that happens at certain points.
So, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think this is necessarily a telling week. I just think that the Moncton loss particularly awkward. And then you sort of have your what was it in which episode of Star Wars did they first fire the Death Star? New Hope?
I don't know. I've never seen Star Wars in my entire life.
Oh my god.
I know there's a bunch of people probably yelling at this episode right now, but yeah, never seen Star Wars.
The Death Star blows up a planet, and Obi-Wan is just like, I sense a disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out and then were suddenly silenced.
Spoilers, man, spoilers.
I feel like that happens like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like that was Dalhousie women's hockey fans over this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
They just see Moncton win 5-3. It's just like, no!
Oh, God.
Because, like, they were close. They had multiple games against Mount A to end the season. You can make up that difference if you're playing Mount A. That team's bad.
That's true.
I think this loss, though, kind of, like, it takes away from their life force at this point. Like, they're really not in good shape.
Dalhousie's not making
They're fried.
I think
they're done.
They needed to, because they had an extra game, I think, this week to make up for like snowed out. So I think they needed to finish this weekend making ground on Moncton, and now I don't think they do. I think they might get 2 points out of it, because I think Moncton plays X tonight and they play Mount A, but they get back 2 points. They're still at 4 or 6 points out with 6 games left to play. Like that's a big gap and not a lot of time. Now, they do play one game against each other on the 27th, so Dalhousie's not dead. It's just, like, they're being carried by Petrica to begin with. The last thing you need is for the team that you're trying to catch to start getting wins you don't expect them to get.
Yeah.
Well, and AUS especially, it lacks volatility, and, like, going back a few episodes when Kaylee learned us about volatility, I've sort of looked into that, but, like, when you think about it, AUS isn't volatile.
No, it's not.
No,
it's a very static league.
No, it really is, and I think the fact that it's volatile will be the death of Dalhousie at this point.
Yeah.
And that's only because teams in front of them aren't going to lose.
Yeah, basically, like, they were already pushing like a giant snowball up a hill, and now they're basically pushing up a boulder at this point.
Yeah.
Talking about ACAA for a second, how high is St. Thomas's women's team ranked? It feels like they've won a lot lately.
I'll double check.
St. Thomas's women's team.
For what sport?
Basketball.
Basketball? Okay.
It feels like they've won a lot lately. But I might just be kind of misreading the situation. It might just be recent results.
Mm-hmm.
Double checking right here. Week 8.
Well, you're looking for that 9-4 over UPEI. This is what happened that's making Gardiner's team behave this way. Because I thought murder was illegal in the Maritimes, and they've killed 2 different teams now?
That's since the X lost their first loss in regulation.
Bag skates Monday.
Yeah.
By the way, they're ranked 8th in the country.
Okay, that makes sense. That follows.
Yep.
That's just the distinction between UNB and the rest of AUS.
You want to know what, though? We made that joke that we thought Gardiner probably didn't care. Oh, well, he's probably going to make them... You want to know what? He might have actually cracked the whip. You guys haven't lost all season. What are you guys doing losing to, like, the worst X team you guys have played since I've been your coach?
Like, what else are you going to do? What are you going to do? You've had nothing to really, like, crack down on all season because you haven't lost in regulation until January.
So Gardiner cracks down on UNB for their first loss, and then UNB goes out and scores 19 goals over one weekend.
Yeah. I think that worked. Hey, this is why he's the best coach in U Sports. Like, it shows.
I think if there's anybody who's from the University of Alberta who listens to this show, they might have something to say about that.
We'll see.
But no one's beating this team. At least not in AUS.
No, like, if they don't at least make the national final, like, it's a failure of a season for sure.
Yeah. Talking about women's hockey, UNB beats UPEI. That was a critical game that we knew they needed to win. They play their second game of the weekend today. I don't remember who.
St. Mary's.
St. Mary's. Obviously, Huskies are coming high off the win against St. Thomas. That's at SMU too, right?
Yeah.
That's tough. I mean, a win here is really critical. Again, St. Mary's is 2 points ahead of UNB. If you're fighting, because I think right now with 6 games left in the season, I think the bye is out of your reach. You're 4 or 6 points behind St. FX.
Yeah, I think so. Did X win this weekend? Did they win both their games?
I don't know.
Or
I think they've only played one.
Oh, okay.
But that's the thing is, it's tough to say because I guess if you're UNB, you basically want Moncton to win today because I think Moncton plays X.
Well, UNB's only 2 points back of St. Mary's.
Well, that I know, but that's not a bye. That's only the 3 seed, right?
But it's still huge.
How far back from X are they? Is it 4?
6.
6?
Yeah.
And no games in hand on either side?
No. Wait.
Yeah.
Game in hand for UNB.
That's not so bad. If you beat St. Mary's today, it's functionally 4 points. 4 points with 6 games. Because they'll have 22 games played after today, right?
Yeah.
So 4 points back, 6 games to play. Did they play X one more time? Can you check?
Yeah, I think they do. Like, I think they have a pretty nasty road trip coming up.
No, because UNB's nasty road trip just ended. They have a homestand for the rest of the season, pretty much.
Yeah, they do. So today they're at St. Mary's. Next Saturday, St. Mary's is in town, and then St. FX is here.
Yes, right. That's what it was.
So that's the biggest game of the year.
Well, yeah, and realistically, like we said, like maybe the bye's out of reach. But if you beat St. Mary's today, and then if you can rattle off 4 wins in a row here, if you can go UPEI, SMU, X, and win all 4 of those, you're probably tied with X for second with going into your last weekend. And I'm pretty sure UNB plays. Does UNB play Mount A in the last week of the season or so?
Yeah, on the second.
That's feasible.
Third last game.
That's feasible.
That is not a crazy thing to think they can do.
It's tough. You've got to beat 2 of the 3 best teams in the country in 3 consecutive games, but Sarah's team spends most of the back half of the season at home.
Yep, which is where they've had their most success. Do they have a better home record than away record? I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, they definitely do.
But even if their records are roughly the same, they have a much better caliber of opponent beaten at home.
Yeah, that's true.
Mind you, they also have a loss to Mount A at home, so yeah.
That was the first game of the season.
It's true, it was.
Yeah, so anyways.
This is a different team.
For sure.
And I think this is funny because we were saying before UNB wanted X to win so that they'd catch St. Thomas. Now St. Thomas is in the opposite position where they're looking down they're looking down the campus of the Aiken Center and they're just like, win.
Yeah.
Win.
Yeah. No,
pretty much.
Like this next upcoming week will probably determine where they fall. Like,
I think for St. Thomas, you're in this really awkward place now where your national ranking really matters, and the 2-loss week hurts.
Yeah, they'll probably drop at least one spot.
Because how they're going to line it up for nationals is assuming St. Thomas makes it, which is what my assumption is. I don't think a team will beat them. Not saying they can't be beaten. We know they can be, just that I don't think anyone will. Right now, they would be the lowest ranked conference winner, which means that they would automatically be seeded 4th, which would mean that they would play the best team that didn't win their conference. Now, assuming that the standing or that the rankings stay the same, Alberta or Manitoba is going to finish first.
Okay.
So they'll be the 1 seed, which is fine because I think they're 1 and 3. So presumably whoever wins their playoff series or wins their conference is going to be 1. You can't have 2 teams from the same conference on the same side of the bracket. But even if you assume that means St. Thomas gets an easier game, which they will, they'll play either the runner-up from RSEC or hopefully OUA, because I would rather play like Concordia than, say, McGill
Yeah.
Personally. Even if we assume that, in the second round they're going to play the Pandas. Or the Bison. That's brutal.
Yeah, and those are two teams from where? Sorry?
Canada West.
Canada West,
That's the
okay.
University of Alberta Pandas, because they're the Golden Bears for men's sports, but the Pandas for women's
okay.
sports.
Okay.
And the University of Manitoba Bison.
Yep. Who are they one? I guess they're the two top teams in Canada West.
Alberta's 1. I think Manitoba's 3. I want to say Montreal or somebody from RSEC is 2. And then I think
it's Montreal.
And then someone from OUA is 4. St. Thomas is 5. Someone else from RSEC is 6. X is 7. And then I think it's Ontario to finish out the top 10. I could double check all this, but right now I'm sort of running on really quickly, so I will actually check this when we move on to the next thing. Carmelo Anthony is expected to be traded by the trade deadline. I don't think this is really a shock to anyone. I guess the biggest question is, where does he go?
How old is he?
Pretty old.
Pretty old, like
he's nearing 40.
Yeah, he's in the twilight of his career. He's not nearing 40. He's only 34. The issue is just that Carmelo is... like, age and injuries have caught up with Carmelo.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, what was the team that he, like, made his name for?
Well, he started out with the Nuggets, but I think the team I think that's the team he's most associated with, but the team that he tried to, like, make his name with was the Knicks.
Oh,
and that did not work out.
No, because the Knicks are basically like the Cleveland Browns of the NBA.
It's true. At least now. You want to know what? That's actually a really good facsimile. Glory years in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Trash now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Having a slight uptick recently. They're literally the Browns.
But so he's basically going to be like that kind of like veteran guy that can still like as you said before the show, put someone over the top.
Yeah. And I think that's the goal, right? He's 34, he still can play. He plays forward. You just need to find a team that could use a forward. Even if he's only coming off the bench to help you, who cares?
Yep. That'd be really good.
I don't know if there's any team that's in playoff contention that would want him as a starter who's really trying for a championship. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to say. It feels like Montreal could use him, or not Montreal. Toronto could use him. Sorry. Because my brain at that point was thinking Melo and Toronto at the same time, and somehow that became Montreal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
weird.
That Toronto could use him. I don't know if there's a trade in the cards that makes sense though.
Oh, they would have to trade for him, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd have to dig into their prospect system probably.
Yeah, and do you want to do that for someone that is he like in like the last year of his contract or?
I'm not sure what the deal is with Carmelo and numbers, honestly.
Okay.
No, that's the thing. Basketball trades are also really weird because it also varies from sports. Like I know in baseball you can't trade picks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can only trade prospects, and the draft is always preset, and they have an algorithm to do that. It's sort of the same in the NBA. Like you can trade first rounders, but it's still kind of iffy. It's shaky because they list it as what is expected to be a first rounder.
Yeah, because draft picks aren't looked at the same way as they are in hockey. Like when a player is drafted, it 9 times out of 10, their draft ranking determines how good they're actually going to be in that sport and everything.
I mean, not counting busts, but yes.
Yeah, for sure. But it's so that's why first round picks or second round picks are maybe seen as more of a higher value than in the say the NBA or in baseball, especially baseball is probably the best example because certain positions take a long time to kind of develop into what they're actually going to be.
You know what we missed last week?
What did we miss?
Because I'm looking at the U Sports top 10 right now. UMB's ranked 14th.
Oh, really?
They received a vote in the last top 10 poll.
That's cool. Probably after beating St. Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did they win their other game that weekend? Who else did they play after St. Thomas that week?
I think so. They beat
Mount A.
Yeah.
Mount A.
Yes. So Montreal right now is in first. They're 10-2 in RSEC, and they're a unanimous number 1 overall team. Alberta's in second, Manitoba's in third, McGill is in fourth, St. Thomas is in fifth, Western is in sixth, X is 7, Concordia is 8, Guelph is 9, Saskatchewan is 10, Ryerson, UBC, Brock, and UNB are all the others receiving votes. I guess my question for this is I don't really know where the lines draw, because this is where things get kind of wonky, because men's hockey, OUA and RSEC play together.
Okay.
And there's some schools, and there's at least one school from OUA that plays women's hockey in RSEC to get them to the minimum required number of teams. So I never remember who is in which conference. So I'm going to double check this really quick, but I'm pretty sure that means that it's RSEC, West, Ontario, and then AUS, because Montreal. Yeah, so Montreal's one. So Montreal and McGill are both from RSEC. So it's RSEC, West, RSEC, AUS, OUA, AUS, RSEC a third time with Concordia, OUA, and then Canada West. So you don't even have an OUA team on the charts until 6th.
Oh, okay.
So St. Thomas was ranked better than every OUA team.
Oh, really?
We'll see.
No.
It's weird. RSEC makes it especially awkward because it's a very, very small conference with a very, very high level of play, at least amongst its good teams. Because this is the thing you have to understand is the team that's currently in 4th place is Carleton, and Carleton are 2-8-1 this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's strange.
It's because
the three best teams in RSEC, like McGill's 11-3, Montreal's 10-2. Then you get to Concordia in the middle of the pack; they're 6-4-2, and then Carleton and Ottawa are 2-8-1 and 3-10 respectively.
Yeah.
That conference is very top heavy, and not in the same way that AUS is top heavy.
Yeah. Anyway, regardless, regardless, how St. Thomas draws, you're going to have to play tough teams if you want to get a national championship. There's no way around that.
Yeah, I think you just ideally like a route where you don't have to potentially play both Canada West teams in a row.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. But, hey, wherever, I know that there, is some poll bias. We've talked about it multiple times on the show, and there's different factors that determine your ranking. It's not necessarily in your favor, especially in the AUS, but where you get drawn is where you get drawn, so you're going to have to deal with it.
It's true. University of Connecticut is considering a drop to the football championship series level. That's the tier 2 level of Division I football because, wow, they're in institutional turmoil. Apparently the football department last year brought in $40.4 million, while essentially paying out $80.9 million. They required an additional $30 million in institutional support, including $8.5 million in student fees just to keep the football team afloat.
So what would that drop mean? Does that mean less of a financial cost? Does it cost more to be in that tier 1?
Yes. So the difference is scale, size, scheduling, travel, and scholarships.
Okay.
Which is that FCS teams don't have to offer as comprehensive a scholarship program as FBS teams do.
Oh, okay. And why is that?
It's just the way the rules are.
Okay.
Because
it's just as is.
Because one of those leagues is actually managed by the NCAA and the other league pretends it is.
Oh, I see.
Now, this does kind of make sense for UConn, which is mostly a basketball school, not a football school. It has the fine distinction of being the worst team to automatically qualify for a championship bowl game a few years ago, when they were part of the old Big East Conference, which is now a basketball only conference. The old Big East Conference had an automatic berth to the BCS Bowls, which were the really big championship games at the end of the season. Connecticut won the Big East and got an automatic bid to one of those bowls when they were 8-4.
Oh, jeez. They probably got crushed in that game.
They sure did.
Yeah. So if they drop, do all of their sports drop down to FC, or this is just football?
FBS and FCS is something that only exists in football.
Oh,
the football bowl subdivision, the football championship subdivision.
So they still have similar things with AUS and ACAA, all the schools across the board, they can have some of their sports in the AUS and some in the ACAA.
Yeah. So this is where it sort of gets weird with. In respect to schools and sports, is in the NCAA there is Division 1 and Division 2 and Division 3, and that's based on like the size of school and caliber of opponents and all sorts of stuff like that. That mumbo jumbo. But how that stuff actually works is a team in Division 1 plays like top tier in all of their sports. But because some of the football schools wanted more control over how football was played, they made an additional like level of football on top of Division 1, which is what FBS is. It's all considered Division 1 football, and FBS teams play FCS teams like with some regularity, but it's not considered like the same thing. It would be like, I'm trying to think what the best facsimile for it. It would be, oh god, it's so hard to actually explain this to people because it makes no sense. But it would be like if the season ended today and a group of people got together and said, okay, according to our voters, UNB and the next 3 best teams in men's hockey are the 4 best teams. They're going to go to the championship playoffs. Too bad for all the rest of you AUS teams or whatever. You guys don't get to play championship games because you guys weren't ranked high enough by our people voters. Weren't ranked high enough. By the way, the ACAA and the, I forget what the equivalent is for Quebec, because Quebec also has a similar system to that, and the Pac West Collegiate Athletics, your guys are going to have an actual playoff where all of your best teams go and play in an actual playoffs against each other, and you're going to crown a national champion. But no one's going to care about your national champion because the 4 big schools are going to go and play for a national championship.
Okay.
Because that's actually what happens in football.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, there's just a lot more, like, snubs than there probably should be.
Yeah, it's weird because the teams in FCS play a legitimate, like, knockout-style playoff that isn't as influenced by poll voting. There is some.
Yeah, it should be a similar format for, like, all of these conferences to get to the same kind of place.
Yeah. The FCS football championship sort of plays out the way March Madness does, whereas the FBS one is the FBS voters just pick what they consider the 4 best teams is, and there you go.
Yeah, which is shady because trusting the opinions of 4 people is not always the best decision.
Well, it's not 4 people. The selection committee is like 20 people. It's just dumb. It's just a bad system.
Even 20 people, like, who knows, like, it depends on, like, where they're all from and, like, how they view these teams and everything like that.
Yeah, that's why the Southeast Conference, where Alabama plays, usually gets this massive poll bias.
Yeah, and it's no fun because, like, who knows? There could be an upset.
Yeah. It's just, it removes the possibility for a smaller school to make a difference, like UCF, who lost their bowl game. Like, I'll admit, they did qualify for a BCS bowl game, one of the bowl games with a big payout, and they did lose. Mm-hmm. But so they should have been in the playoff. They're not even the only team that should be. They definitely should have been because they were undefeated, but they weren't the only team that should have been. There were other teams that should have been in there that probably deserved a fair shake and didn't get it.
Yep, and like that's the whole thing with like if we're gonna bring that word volatile back with the whole playoffs thing, like it could be some people don't, like, some teams just don't have their day and it can end in a weird result.
Anyway, whether or not UConn moves is so totally up to obviously them, but I don't think that football is feasible if they're losing $40 million a year.
Yeah. It's an expensive sport, isn't it? Like, it's probably on par with, like, what hockey is.
It's probably more expensive than hockey.
Mm-hmm.
If you consider everything that goes into it, it's probably more expensive than hockey.
Yeah, just, like, paying, like, all the personnel and everything like that.
And there's so much more money in it than hockey. You saw the documentary that I convinced everyone and their dog to watch last year.
Yep.
Anyway. The Australian Open continues, and we have one Canadian left in the field. Milos Raonic is going to play his round of 16 game today. I believe it's tonight. I will double check.
Again, today meaning Sunday at the time we are recording this.
Yes, Sunday at the time we're recording. You guys will know the result of this game by the end because it's airing at 10:15 p.m. tonight for us, so it would have been yesterday for you. Yep. He's playing 4th-ranked Alexander Zverev of Germany. Really quickly, Shapovalov got eliminated by Djokovic.
Yep, no real shock there, as we said in the last episode.
It's interesting because if you consider where you're seated, an indication of where you belong, Shapovalov should get knocked out in the round of 32. He's seeded 25th. He's not seeded in the top 16. So that sort of follows logically, right?
Yep.
Just like if Raonic loses to Zverev now and doesn't make the quarterfinals, well, Raonic is ranked 16th and got knocked out in the round of 16. That sort of makes sense.
Is Eric ranked higher than he is?
Zverev is ranked 4th.
Oh, okay. Is he a new guy? Is he just?
No, he's been
coming on
around
the
for a
scene?
bit.
Okay.
Zverev is young. He just has been around for a little while. Obviously, this news is not exactly the newest news, but of note, Roger Federer has been eliminated from the Australian Open.
Wow.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of that game before we came here because it was just played this morning, Sunday morning, I guess.
Yes, he was knocked out by 14th ranked young Greek phenom Stefanos Tsitsipas. I screwed that up.
Nurmagomedov.
Oh my God! Yes, I know. I was literally practicing this, watching the game because I knew I was going to have to talk about it one way or another. And of course, now that I'm here, it's oh my God! It's like
Sound it out.
It's Tsitsipas. Yes, Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Yeah. What were the score? How many games?
It was
How many sets, I should say.
Funny enough, it was another dogfight, kind of like Raunic's fight with Wawrinka. It was 6-7 with the tiebreaker being 13-11 for Federer. Then it was 7-6 with a 7-3 tiebreaker for Tsitsipas. 7-5, then 7-6 with a 7-5 tiebreaker.
Cool.
Yeah. It was really good. He outserved Federer. He had 20 aces to Federer's 12.
Wow.
Federer's gone. It's actually been a bad day for top seeds. Like, Nadal's still alive, but Cilic, who is the 6th seed, got knocked out by Roberta Batista Agut, beat him in 5 sets, so Marin Cilic is out as well. So the only top seeds that are left really are Joker and Nadal.
Okay.
And Zverev, obviously, playing today against Raonic. But a lot of people have been saying that they think Zverev's game's a little off and Raonic might knock him out today.
Yeah, it'd be nice. This is definitely, if Raonic, has he won a major tournament yet?
Oh, yeah. He definitely has.
Which major did he win?
I'm not actually. He might not have won a major, but he was ranked as high as 3rd one at one point. So I'm sure that he's won something. Give me 1 second. I'll double check really quickly.
Because that's just something that they someone in Raunic's position, if they want to make a run for it, having one of those, having a Federer knocked out or something like that in the middle rounds and everything bodes well for him.
He has never won, but in the year that he got up to 3rd ranked, he made the semifinals of the Australian Open, the finals at Wimbledon, at the semifinals of the ATP Tour Finals.
Oh, okay.
So
he's never won. He's never won a major.
He's never won a major. He does have wins under his belt. Obviously, he has 8 titles in lesser events. And a really good win percentage. People don't realize this, but Raunic's win percentage is 68, which is pretty good for a guy who's,
Yeah, what would Federer's be if you had to guess?
God.
80?
Probably higher than that. The thing with it is, it also depends on how many losses you take early in your career and if you have a slump, right?
Yeah, that's true. Has Federer ever really had that?
Federer's record is 1,183 wins to 261 losses for a singles winning percentage of 81.93.
That has to be close to greatest of all time.
That's crazy.
He has 99 career titles, which is the 2nd most in the Open era.
Who would have the most?
That's a good question. I used to know the answer to
Pete
this.
Sampras, maybe?
No, Jimmy Connors is 109.
Ooh. He's getting there.
Connors also has about 100 matches played more than Federer, 70 matches won more than Federer. But Federer, funnily enough, actually has the 3rd highest active win percentage because Djokovic's is 82.7 and Nadal's is 83.
So it's higher or lower? It's lower.
Federer's is the 3rd amongst active players for win rate.
Mm-hmm. So basically, all 3 of those guys, every 10 tournaments they play, they win 8 of them.
Correct.
Yeah, basically.
Which is insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is what it is.
Tennis.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. The Djokovic-Shapovalov match was really good until suddenly it wasn't. Mm-hmm. Which was that Shapovalov literally fell apart in the 4th set in a way that I've never seen him play badly before.
Yeah, he did manage to get under Djokovic's skin at one point.
Yeah, in the 3rd set, there was a point where where Shapo fought him off, and then came back and won a set, and Djokovic was ticked.
Yeah.
But then Chapo had a call not go his way, and then kind of let it get into his head, and then just fell apart in the fourth set and lost 6-0.
Yeah, how many? That happens a lot. Like you have that one thing that just throws you off, and then you end up losing the match.
Well, yeah, and
it's such a mental game. I don't think people understand how much of it is in tennis.
The three of us sit in a privileged position in that we are critics of sport.
Yeah.
So we get to kind of
100%.
say this sort of thing from expectation. But it should be pointed out that Chapo, as a teenager, is better at tennis than any of us are likely to ever be at anything.
Yeah. How old is he right now?
He's 19.
He's 19.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Put any of us in that situation. And at 19, we would like crack instantly. It wouldn't even take like the first game. We would already be falling apart.
Yeah. Chapo was 19 until April.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that's something that like with all sports criticism, like take it with the grain of salt that we know that we would never be able to achieve the level of sport in 10 lifetimes that these people could.
I mean, Shapovalov is ranked 25th in the world. He's 19 years old.
Was Federer even that high ranked when he was at that age?
Maybe, I don't know. I am not going to look back on that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He ended up where he is anyway. So, but no, that's definitely impressive for sure. How many years has he been on the pro tour? I wonder. Shapovalov has.
Oh, only a few.
Yeah, I think his big break happened like a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember in the year in review, not this past one, but the one before that, our first one.
We were talking about him breaking out when we did our 2017 year in review.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
So wait, no. So basically, he's the same age as my brother.
Yeah.
Who was born in the year 2000.
Shapovalov was born in 99.
99? Okay, so
Oof.
Still though.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can sort of tell based on record, like Shapovalov's singles record is 51-45. He has a 53% win percentage. That's because when you first start out as a professional tennis player, you lose a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, getting yourself above 500 is kind of a sign. Like, he has over $2 million in senior prize money.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's some cash.
Oh, a bunch of that was probably his fourth round finish at the U.S. Open from 2017, but...
Fair enough. But yeah, like you need some time to work up through the ranks because there's a big difference between like the top 5 and like say like 20 or like the 20th rank and onward and everything like that.
Yeah.
And even if you're ranked in like the top 20 or the top 30, those are all like elite level tennis players.
Yeah, and they are. He does have like a couple of ATP Challenger Tour championships. He won one in Drummondville. He won one in Gatineau. Of note, he actually has a U.S. Open junior doubles title with Felix Auger-Aliassime, who's a big like doubles player. So like, you know, Chapo has cred. Is what it is.
Yep. Should we move on?
Yep. Moving on from the Australian Open will take us to the UFC. We kind of started off the show a little bit on this, but there's been a whole whack of news for the UFC that we've got about 10-ish minutes to cover if we're going to get to hockey stuff. First things first, new title belt.
New title belt. So it took me a while. I thought it was like are they like combining like championship belts or something like that? Are they doing like an overall world title? So no, I guess this is just the new design for all the belts for all the weight classes.
Yes. They've updated the design with a more sports entertainment inspired design.
Yeah. A particular type of sports entertainment that the UFC takes a lot of notes from, that's for sure.
Despite them not being in the same realm at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like triple like the cost of like what the regular belt is. It's got a whole bunch of brand new bling and that kind of stuff. So this is what the Legacy Belt, I think that's just a really corny name. Like, are they going to call like the UFC like flyweight or bantamweight Legacy Belt from now on?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, so the belt is has like all this fancy like new like gold. It's worth a ton of money. It has this flag iconography. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Of the first 8 countries from which UFC titles have been distributed to.
They look awful.
Yeah, it does look a little bit dumb. But anyway, it has flags to represent Belarus, Brazil, Canada, Ireland, Netherlands, Poland, the United Kingdom, and the United States for their first 8 champions, like that the first 8 countries the championship belt went to. of course, representing Andrei Arlovsky, Murilo Bustamante, Carlos Newton, Conor McGregor, Bas Rutten, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Did I say that right?
Manny Jędrzejczyk, yeah.
Jędrzejczyk, Michael Bisping, and Mark Coleman. It also has the Roman numeral for 1993, which was the first year of the UFC. It has custom options for plates on the side for whoever holds the belt at that time. A little bit nod to the WWE there. And plates on name for their name and their weight classes. And as well, there are octagons on the side. And they have like these like silver like rhinestones or whatever it is. And for every title defense, you replace one of them with a ruby.
Is it just defenses or does it? I'm pretty sure.
Like title, like championship for the belt, like
victories.
Victories.
Because if you win the belt, you still get the first ruby. For
every belt comes with like the first, like it has one ruby on it because you won a title fight.
Yeah.
And also, this is like the belts. You won't get like individual belts like the last ones. Well, this is just one belt that will be passed from champion to champion to champion.
No, that's actually not what they mean by that.
Oh.
Before, if you were a UFC champion, lost your belt, and you regained your belt, you got a second belt.
Oh,
that's why if you go and look at some fighters like bookshelves, like BJ Penn, although BJ is kind of a weird, bad example because his titles are technically in two different weight classes. But
it's true.
Like, I'm trying to think of a good example of someone who had a title, lost a title, won a title again. But if in that situation, you received a belt every time you were champion.
Okay.
I don't know if there was rules on you had to have defended it once or not, but I think if you were champion, you got a belt to keep.
Okay.
The UFC has now decided they don't want to do that anymore.
So what are they doing now?
You get your legacy belt the first time you're champion. Then when you're recrowned champion, they add another ruby to it, and you just wear your original belt.
Oh, okay. I thought they passed like the same belt from champion to champion.
No.
Oh, okay.
Technically, they already do that because if I'm not mistaken, there's a show belt that they use, and then there's an additional different belt that's bought for fighters.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
I think the Red Rubies thing is cool, actually. Mm-hmm. I wish that it was like mirrored and not you fill out one octagon and then the other one. Because I feel like
true.
It's really dumb because you're going to have come people with like 2 or 3 rubies on one side and the rest is going to be all like fake cubic zirconia rhinestones.
Yeah, that's
I wish
fair.
that it would be like the top one on each side and then the next one on each side.
Okay.
So at least if you held the belt up, it was like...
It had that... It would still keep its symmetry and everything like that.
But...
Anyway, the first of these legacy belts goes to Henry Cejudo.
For defeating DJ Dillashaw last night.
Yeah, basically...
Handily, in fact.
Yeah, like, Dillashaw made a mistake. He got caught. Cejudo, like, pushed him off balance after they were...
Dazing him.
Yeah, and Dillashaw never regained his balance because Cejudo kept punching him in the face.
Yep.
And that's basically how the fight went.
It was the 5th fastest knockout in the modern era.
Yep, 32 seconds. And Dillashaw not happy... probably more with himself than the actual stoppage, although he did say that it was a...
He believes
it was a quick stoppage. No, you got punched 12 times in the face.
No,
it was 100%. And good on Cejudo for keeping the...
flyweight division alive.
Yeah, the last shreds of dignity that division has.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have been led to believe that there is no competition in that division. Even the best fighters in that division would lose in any other division.
Yep. Even though Joseph Benavidez had a pretty handled win last night as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. On during the main card.
And Cejudo beat the guy that's probably like. I realize that UFC advertises people like John Jones, but TJ Dillashaw is sort of their golden boy. When they want to hold up an example of our champions aren't trash, look at TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah.
He trains so hard. He's so clean cut with his baby blue eyes and cute little tuft of blonde hair.
Yeah. Well, even look at the fight promo where it's literally Dillashaw with the smuggest look I've ever seen for a UFC fight promo, and this is an organization where Conor McGregor exists. And he's like has the thumb over to Cejudo like, oh, this guy's nothing. And he was talking. You were talking before the show that like he was basically looking past this fight, and he kind of ate it.
Yeah, because there was talk that he was already saying that he wanted to move up to 145 and win a 3rd belt. And then he got knocked out by Cejudo, who 100% deserves a bantamweight title fight now.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, Dillashaw missed out on his chance to be a double champ. Well, if you're going to give Garbrandt, of all people, a rematch, you give Cejudo one.
Yeah.
for sure. I think that'd be a great fight. And maybe it's a better fight if TJ gets a little bit humbled by this fight, but
maybe.
We'll see. Paige Van Zandt and Rachel Ostovich played, both women coming back after Paige Van Zandt had that really bad arm injury.
Yeah.
That her surgery had complications and everything, which delayed her recovery time and everything. And of course, Rachel Ostovich coming off that domestic abuse incident with her ex-boyfriend. By the way, it's a little bit of karma. Greg Hardy getting disqualified by kneeing a downed opponent in his fight where he was fighting Alan Crowder. So that's his just desserts there, because he's a former NFL player convicted of domestic violence. Stop me if you heard that before.
I think I was hearing in the post-fight presser that Crowder said he wanted to fight Hardy again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's probably just like the humble fighter being like, oh, he made a mistake or something like that. It could happen to any of us and anything like that. But no, it's a pretty dumb move. Like, he was clearly down. He clearly had his right knee down on the ground. So
Ostovich controls the fight in the first.
Yeah. It was some really good jiu-jitsu back and forth in the first, but Ostovich was on top of Van Zandt for the most part. The second round comes in. It's more of the same. She gets the takedown and everything, but Van Zandt ends up on top of her, taking her back. Like, that switched around, switching positions, and Van Zandt eventually ends up on the elbow joint of Ostovich, trying to get an armbar, not really having the proper grip on it, but the fact that her sheer weight was on Ostovich's
joint.
Elbow joint, you could see underneath, like, they're just basically like crushing it and bending it the other way. So she tapped out and everything. The ref, like, Van Zandt let go. The ref was actually telling her, don't let go until we see that she tapped, because Ostovich was tapping on the other side of Van Zandt, and the ref was like on the opposite side. So, but yeah.
Yeah, but then you get into the really, really, like, difficult character where Van Zandt's coming back off of an arm injury, and she doesn't want to take off Ostovich's arm, and she's already sort of like, maybe it was intentional. Like, I'll give Van Zandt some credit, but you're using your entire body weight to mutilate a person's joint. The last thing you want to do is end their career. Like, she's not Rousimar Palmeiras here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Anyway, so we've got about a minute and a half left to cover UFC, so let's fire through this. Cerrone and Hernandez.
Yeah, a really dominant performance by Cerrone. He gets his 35th win. After the fight, our favorite Irishman, Conor McGregor, tweeting, "For a fight like that, I'll fight you." Of course, Cerrone, after his last fight, was talking about a potential fight with Conor McGregor. Why not? Give it to him. Maybe it's his last fight.
Cerrone has 100% always been a bridesmaid, never a bride. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate because, because McGregor doesn't have the belt anymore, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Cerrone deserves a title shot before his career dies.
Yeah, absolutely. Is he the most popular fighter in UFC history?
Are we talking overall?
Overall, yeah.
Lightweights kind of get that. Clay Guida was huge when Guida was in too, right?
Yeah. That most popular fighter that doesn't have the profile of Conor McGregor or something like that, but he's just been always for the fan. The dude generally likes fighting. I remember him saying on a podcast "Hey, if I wasn't fighting professionally, I'd be in a bar trying to steal your girlfriend."
I mean, Cerrone's always been a gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. If you can beat Donald Cerrone, you're a contender.
Yep.
Because that's always the level he's been at, which has been, all right, I've had my fights for the belt. I haven't been able to win one because he hasn't won one, right? Did he have the WEC?
I don't even think... Has he even had a title shot? I don't even think...
I don't know if he has in the UFC, but I know he had a bunch of WEC.
Yeah, but he's never had a title shot in the UFC, I don't think.
But he's essentially been the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. If you beat Cerrone, you prove that you are probably deserving of a title shot.
Yep, for sure.
When's Cerrone going to get a title shot?
I think that's probably his kind of lifetime achievement prize before... Well, I liked what you said, it was probably a month or two ago after his last fight, is that, Dana White gives him the title shot, so, if you lose this fight, retire.
Yeah, and I think that's what you do with Cerrone now.
Mm-hmm. And he deserves it. 35 wins, that's the most in UFC history.
15 seconds, McGregor got arrested again?
Yeah, you guys shared that Reddit thing where apparently he was on like a court docket related to some sort of recent
there's a court docket leaked to an Irish news website about him having to make an appearance in court. Mm-hmm. No idea what it's about.
Yeah, well, if there was anything of substance, I'm sure it would have got some mainstream press. So maybe we'll hear about, maybe we won't. But for now, it's kind of smoke and mirrors at this point.
About 8 minutes left in the show. Hockey. KHL All-Star Game happened this past week. Man, that is a show.
That's a fun time.
NHL could take a couple pointers from what they would do.
Matthew Mayone played Lumineers.
Yeah, he played like a Lumineers cover, full gear, everything on the ice with an electric guitar. So that was kind of cool. I love the tweet from Gus Katsaros, who writes for McKean's Hockey. He's like, I hope Travis Dermott makes the All-Star Game someday so he can play some of his original music. Because Dermott actually has recorded an album and released music and everything.
That's pretty great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. One of their skills competition is ice soccer. You have to score on a goalie in full gear with a miniature soccer ball.
Why does NHL not...
That's fun.
That's awesome.
Do you remember, I showed you Kick-Tac-Toe. Remember this? We were talking about...
Which one?
The NFL skills competition has an event called Kick-Tac-Toe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that's fun. Mm-hmm. That's what I want. That's the thing is...
It's more interactive.
As dumb as it is, the shootout competition is hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't want to see Ovi come down with 2 sticks and a ridiculous hat and sunglasses on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do more of that. Ryan Johansson suspended for a high stick on Mark Scheifele.
I don't think... It didn't look as malicious. It's just... I think it's just Johansson being careless with his stick. Regardless, I think he deserves the suspension because you can't hit people in the face with a hockey stick.
That's fair. Canucks are now just outside of the playoffs, but as of 2 days ago, they were in a playoff spot, but unfortunately the Ducks and the Wild had to ruin it, so I didn't get to come into the show today. Canucks are in a playoff spot.
Yeah.
But Canucks are currently tied for 9th. They're 1 point behind Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the dogfight.
Yeah, Markstrom has the best numbers over the past 15 games for
it's over
goaltender.
The past month, from today back to December, same date. He has a 9.58 save percentage or something.
That's crazy.
Like that. And Demko
That's ridiculous.
Won his first 2 starts.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's great.
Good for him.
Is Markstrom injured right now?
No.
Okay.
No. They just he lost a game and broke his big streak of playing well, and they were like, well, we called up Demko 3 weeks ago, and he hasn't played because you've been,
good.
a brick wall. So
yeah, Barry Trotz is a gangster.
Yes, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Which was Barry Trotz is on the bench. The Islanders play the Capitals literally for first place in the Met a couple nights ago. They do a video tribute to Barry Trotz. While the video tribute is on, Trotz gathers up his players, leans down to them, and says, "That's going to be us this year."
Yep.
The Capitals are honoring the man for winning the first Stanley Cup in team history. He doesn't give a damn.
That's a coach. That's a coach.
Yeah. Oh, it's Barry Trotz.
So he doesn't have a Jack Adams, does he?
No.
Neither does Mike Babcock.
If they win the Met, he's winning it this year. That team lost John Tavares and got better.
Yeah, they're ahead of the Leafs now, which, as painful as it is to say, it's true.
Senators have apparently offered Duchene 8x8, according to Nick Kyprios. It looks like insider information says the deal for Stone's going to be the same length but more money. It's a steep price.
I don't know.
That's a steep price for two guys whose career best years were in the 60s for points.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I do it for Stone only because, especially because he's sort of like your emotional leader at this point. He's the guy.
He's not worth $10 million.
But who else do you build it around? As far as inexperience, the leadership kind of role goes, because we know you can't just strip it down to the studs. You can't just strip it down to the studs and expect the kids to find their way.
Yes, you can. You don't have a goalie, and your two best stars are a 26 and 28-year-old who have never eclipsed better than 70 points.
Okay, but you look at recent rebuilds. Edmonton didn't do it, and that ruined them. They didn't at least have some of those veteran guys, and those are intangibles that you look for.
I know
you need them.
You're paying Duchene and Stone like they're franchise players. You're going to pay Duchene barely less than the Oilers paid Draisaitl, and you're going to play Stone barely less than the Oilers paid McDavid.
See, the thing that would make sense here is to get someone who is hands down your best players to play with Duchene and Stone.
Yeah.
But you don't have any other pieces to trade to get someone like
because
that.
Stone's only 26 and is probably going to put up a career year this year. I don't hate Stone at 8x8. I don't even hate him at 8x9. But if you are the Sens and you sign him to double digits AAV, you're stupid. Period. End of sentence.
Mm-hmm. He's not a $10 million player.
No. Oilers' number one pick is allegedly in play for trade rumors. I don't believe this, actually. People keep saying it, but there's no way that the Oilers are going to go all in on trading their first-round pick.
No, especially for a year you might squeak in, and if you do, you might lose in the first round.
You're going to lose in the first round, probably to the Flames.
Yeah. Who beat them pretty handily last night.
Yep.
You know what Edmonton can do that would make them a better team?
What?
And this is why I don't necessarily agree with firing Peter Chiarelli if they don't make the playoffs, is I think that this team's a 2-3 year big picture kind of team.
No.
I think it is, though, because
they were a 2-year big picture kind of team when they got McDavid.
But see, traditionally, so now you look at some of the guys they have coming up. Evan Bouchard and Puljujarvi is someone I wanted to touch on, is that power forwards generally take longer to develop to hit their full stride. If we're just talking the loosest sense of the word power forward, and you can't give up on Puljujarvi because you're going to regret that, and B, I think when you look at Puljujarvi Yamamoto, that it's going to be a sick core in a few years.
We only have
Give it time.
We only have 2 minutes, so really we're going to go through things really quickly. Patrick Berglund.
So it came out the reason why he kind of left the Sabres organization without much word as to why. He got his contract terminated, which was supposed to pay him $3.85 until 2020. He finally came out saying that he was battling depression issues and he just needed a break from hockey. Was talking about how much the NHL supported him, the NHLPA, and the Buffalo Sabres. It wasn't the ghost job that people thought it was at the first.
Scotty Bowman and Kotkaniemi. Is this about
him comparing him to Jean Beliveau?
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of lofty, but okay.
I don't even know.
People were comparing Pettersson to Gretzky earlier this season.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
2 minutes left. Sean Nylander.
Okay, so Nylander. So I pulled up some stats here, and
also, the Nylander has as many points as Halak is one of the lamest takes I've ever heard.
Yeah.
He does, doesn't he?
Wait, why do you think so?
Because it's a pathetic take. First off, Halak's played 3 times as many games as Nylander has.
Yeah, but he's also a goaltender.
Second, all 3 of his points are assists. That happens. Goalies collect incidental assists over the course of a season. Mm-hmm. Yes, of course Nylander struggled. He didn't attend training camp. He didn't do any NHL training. He signed at the last possible moment and immediately joined the roster. Of course he's not scoring.
Yeah, so he's got 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, 19 games. I still think give it until the 25-game mark, but that's why I wanted Sean to pull up some advanced stats just to see what the underlying numbers are suggesting.
Yeah, and conveniently I have him up here with Stone and Duchene. So I guess it kind of gives it a benchmark, but William Nylander actually has a better Corsi for percentage than those two.
Surprised to no one.
Well, no, I'm not surprised either.
How much did Nylander get signed for?
The AAV after this season, 6.9.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and so he has a 58 Corsi for percentage. So he's a very positive Corsi player. He's actually above average in that category, and he still has some more to give. His PDO currently sits at 93.5. So you could probably expect a 6.5% increase by the end of the season.
That's the luck stat, right?
Yeah. It just talks about quality of teammates.
So Nylander's been unlucky this season through 20 games.
Yeah, he's just been getting very terrible matchups. His quality of teammates isn't as high as it is historically because in the past he's played with Austin Matthews and lately he's been playing with Nazem Kadri and Patrick Marleau. So
Babcock, stop putting him on the 4th line. Just put him with Matthews until both of them get going.
Yeah, the 4th line's 3rd line.
What?
Well, it's Kadri and Marleau. It's your 3rd line.
Oh, whatever. Keep them with Matthews until they both get through their slumps and everything like that.
Well, I think Babcock's thinking here is that he doesn't want Nylander to pull Matthews down.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think bodes really well is that Zach Hyman was with them the last game. I think Babcock put him back together in Tampa, and I think historically speaking, that's going to help Nylander.
Final thoughts. You've got 10 seconds.
No, I think we need to stop looking at Nylander as sort of he needs to get it going this season because I think I think the Leafs are also thinking longer term, right? That's just how they're operated to think.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Overtime Radio today. That's all the time that we have. Hope you are enjoying your snowy Monday here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, listening to CHSR 979 FM. We'll be back on the air from 2 to 3 on Friday. We will see you then.